Members of Parliament, support staff, those in the public tribune, radio listeners, TV viewers, all following this meeting via social media, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I welcome you to this public meeting number 17 for today, Monday, April the 28th of 2025. This is public meeting number 17, and it's actually a question hour, which is also a public meeting. I want to welcome the Minister of TIAT, Mrs. Grisha Heiliger Martin, and her support staff. We have established a quorum of 9 members. I invite you to stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. For this meeting, we have received notice of absence from the members Otley, De Weaver, and Lewis. Before I go over to ask the members of Parliament if there are any notifications, just a brief notification regarding the meeting. And this meeting did start. We had a quorum the second time around when the meeting was supposed to start back, or to start rather. And however, we realized it was not streamed. So we are going to restart this meeting. This is a new meeting that we're having, and I will go into some of the details. However, before I do so, I give any member of Parliament who wishes to have the floor for notifications. I see MP Lac Cruz wishes to do that. MP Lac Cruz, you have the floor.
A blessed afternoon, Madam Chair, Lady Rifir, my fellow colleagues, and the Minister and her support staff. Madam Chair, Lady, I'd like to just bring one topic to the forefront, and it is the accident that took place last night with the motorbikes again on St. Martin. I remember during the budget debate, I asked both ministers, the Minister of TIAT and the Minister of Justice, concerning the illegal bikes on the island that are not insured but also can be purchased by minors. And my staff is busy still going back over the answers, but I'd like to bring that back on the forefront, that the minister could pay attention to that, as it is now again on the roll that our people are being hurt and drivers are being threatened by motorbike drivers all over. Thank you, Madam Chair, Lady.
Thank you, MP Lac Cruz, for that notification. I don't see any other member requesting the floor for notification, so we can go right over to the agenda point for this public meeting. And that is a question hour, public question hour. And we will be dealing with questions by the member Lac Cruz. And these questions were directed to the Minister of TIAT, Minister Grisha Heiliger Martin, and they have been registered here at Parliament under IS 810, dated April the 1st of this year. The question hour of Parliament is a very specific way of members of Parliament making use of their right to information. Part of the right to information by members of Parliament is, of course, the right to question. There are several ways that members of Parliament can question ministers of government, and a question hour is one such a way, in addition to requesting meetings as well as sending questions in writing to the ministers. The question hour for the Parliament of St. Martin is regulated in Article 69 of our Rules of Order. These questions must be in by Parliament at a certain time in order for them then to be scheduled in consultation with the minister. It is required that the questions for a question hour be submitted to the minister in advance, and that has been done today. As I mentioned during the meeting, which we thought was being streamed, but it was not, the timing for the question hour, so the time for the members as well as the ministers, we believe, and with we, I mean the Secretary General and myself, that we need to look at the time given to members of Parliament to ask these questions and the time given to the Minister to respond. However, those changes have not yet taken place, and thus we will work with what we have so far. So the MP, in this case MP Lac Cruz, is given the opportunity to pose his questions verbally, which have been sent to the minister already, and these are what the MP is going to now try to kind of condense them in terms of saving time, not our time, but his time granted. And so, MP Lac Cruz, you have the floor to pose your questions to the minister. MP Lac Cruz.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair Lady, as I realized what took place a while ago while we were off camera, that the minister still mentioned and called and read all the questions. I think it's kind of double and a little frustrating to the viewers also having to hear the questions mentioned twice, but I'll take your advice and make a short summary of exactly what the goal is of these questions, and then the minister will be able to read up the questions. And the questions, it is basically, Madam Chair Lady, while in the ministry, the idea of having every taxi, every bus have to go through a inspection again before picking up the new plates, that would have eliminated the possibilities of people actually holding on to a permit that they are not using, or even being able to rent out the permit. So in that line, right, was, you know, the essence of the whole question I will put together. And then the illegal drivers, the gypsies, with the situation that took place up by the harbor, the insurance for the drivers that was already worked on and was being worked on by the ministry and being helped by VSR, and just the availability of bus and taxis during or after hours. That was in line the questions, and then I'll make the opportunity if there are any questions after the minister answers, or if the answer is not exactly what I sought, for clarification. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Lac Cruz, and yes, thank you for actually summarizing your questions in that fashion. And I think this is what is actually meant in the rules of order where the question hour is concerned. So you will pose your detailed questions like you have done in writing. They went to the minister, but when reading them here, you just basically do a summary of your questions, because the minister would have all the questions detailed. And then the minister now is granted a minute per question. So that, yeah, so with that, Minister, I invite you, actually again, because you did start before, I invite you to take the floor and respond to the questions as you have received them via myself from MP Lac Cruz. Minister Grisha Heiliger-Martin, you have the floor.
Once again, good afternoon, Madam Chair Lady, and good afternoon to all the members of Parliament and those listening and viewing online or to any media source, and also good afternoon to the Secretary General. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady, for the opportunity to address the questions posed regarding the status and the direction of the public transportation in our country. The questions received reflect both concerns and the interest of this Parliament to ensuring transparency, accountability, and effective regulations within our transportation sector. As Minister of Transportation, I wish to state that at the outset that my Ministry is currently in the process of updating and refining the policy and regulatory framework that governs public transportation in St. Martin. This work is ongoing and is being approached with diligence as we aim to create a robust, fair, and future-oriented system that addresses long-standing issues while adapting to the overall or the evolving needs of our people and visitors. However, I must respectfully indicate that several matters raised in the questions are directly related to policies that are still under internal review and most importantly, require stakeholder engagement and public consultation before being finalized or made public. Premature disclosure or definitive positions can at this stage or could jeopardize the integrity of that consultative process. So therefore, I will do my utmost through you, Madam Chair Lady, to provide responses where appropriate, and I kindly ask the MPs to understand that not all questions can be answered in full details at this time. This is not out of reluctance, but rather out of respect for the need to encourage our stakeholders, or to engage our stakeholders, including Taxi and Bus Association, SZV, and relevant ministries, and the general public in a transparent and inclusive manner before final decisions are communicated. With that framework in mind, I now proceed to address the questions that can be answered at this stage and will clearly indicate where policy discussions are still ongoing. Question 1. How many bus and taxi licenses has been approved in 2025 and how many remain uncollected? As of this time in 2025, no new taxi or bus licenses have been approved. The ministry continues to evaluate the current transportation landscape, including supply and demand, to ensure that any future licensing aligns with broader mobility, safety, and economic development goals. Therefore, no license remain uncollected for the period referenced in the question. What measures does the minister plan to implement regarding the previous minister's policies aimed at limiting the rental of the permit and revoking of uncollected licenses? The ministry is reviewing current policies on permit rentals and uncollected licenses. While the 2023 moratorium policy prohibits leasing, it lacks clear enforcement measures. We are working to strengthen our framework to ensure fair and accountable practices moving forward. What steps does the ministry intend to take to address the issue of unregistered or unauthorized gypsy drivers? The ministry is conducting a comprehensive review of all active and dormant transport permits to better regulate the sector. We recognize that unauthorized operators often arise in underserved areas, and we are working to strengthen public transportation while addressing illegal operations through improved enforcement and policy updates. After obtaining the government-issued permit, who is responsible for determining which taxi drivers are permitted to operate at key locations such as the harbor and the airport? The minister does not determine which taxi drivers operate at specific locations such as the harbor or the airport. Permit holders have the freedom to choose where and when they operate, provided their activities comply with a legal regulatory framework. Please provide the role of the association, and does the government have any say in how the association is structured or operated? Associations primarily act as a liaison between the government on industry matters. However, they do not represent all permit holders, who are free to choose how they associate. The government does not intervene in how associations are structured or operate, respecting their independence. What progress has been made to ensure that the bus and taxi drivers receive insurance coverage from SZV? This matter is still under discussion and deliberation, and given that we are currently busy reviewing the relevant policy, this issue is actively being taken into consideration. As such, we are not able to comment on details at this time. Question 7. The prepaid ticket system for rides to Mullet Bay appears to limit competition by restricting return trips to taxis affiliated with specific associations. What steps will the ministry take to ensure fair opportunities for all taxi operators? The ministry is in process of addressing concerns about limited competition by developing a centralized taxi application, ensuring equal access to service requests for all licensed operators, regardless of association. This initiative aims to promote fairness, transparency, and accountability in the sector. Does the ministry have plans to organize an island knowledge course for taxi drivers? Yes, we have plans to develop a certification program for all permit holders and drivers, including an island knowledge course. The training will cover topics such as first aid, customer service, safe driving, road safety regulations, and how to effectively promote St. Martin and its rich culture to visitors. Question 9. Public buses are not available at 7 p.m. Does the ministry have plans to address this issue? Yes. The ministry is reviewing public bus schedules as part of the broader transport sector. Extending service hours beyond 7 p.m. is under consideration, with attention to safety, feasibility, surveillance, and operational challenges such as cash handling and nighttime security. Question 10. On March 26, 2025, an elderly passenger was injured on the bus but could not identify the driver. Will the ministry implement a policy requiring public transport vehicles to visibly display their driver's name, photograph, fare, tariffs, license plate number upon entering the vehicle, for instance on the dashboard screen or place card, or for identification or complaint purposes? For identification or complaint purposes, we are revising policies to improve service delivery and ensure transparency and accountability. Measures to display the driver's name, photograph, fare, tariffs, and license plate are being considered as part of our commitment to safe, efficient public transportation. Can you elaborate on the role of the Taxi and Bus Association as well as the laws governing their operations? As mentioned, the government does not intervene in how associations organize. They are key stakeholders in raising concerns and advocating for their industry changes. Question 12. In accordance with Article 20 of the Constitution, the government is responsible for job creation. What plans does the minister have in this regard? Our plans are dedicated to job creation and the promotion of entrepreneurship through a multifaceted strategy that strengthens traditional sectors such as local agriculture, maritime and yachting, and technology innovative industries, as well as advancing small business development into collaboration with the SEDC. We are engaging key stakeholders to reduce import dependency, stimulate sustainable local employment, and boost our industry's base. Furthermore, we will soon announce a new program featuring initiatives designed or designated to simplify the process of doing business on the island, thereby ensuring a resilient, inclusive, and thriving economic future for all citizens. How many taxi dispatchers are currently operating? There are currently 8 taxi dispatchers operating, 7 dispatchers are functioning, and 1 is on medical leave. How many complaints has the minister received regarding taxi drivers and the way the work is being dispatched? As of April 2025, 8 formal complaints have been received by the taxi dispatching section. This includes 6 complaints from the taxi dispatchers themselves against drivers, mainly concerning overcharging, refusal of jobs, and inappropriate conduct with guests. And then 2 complaints from the taxi drivers against the dispatchers. All complaints are being documented and reviewed following established procedures to ensure a fair and transparent resolution. Why are certain association members at the harbor reportedly prioritizing their own vehicle by securing full tourist groups for tours while assigning others to shorter trips? While the government does not regulate the internal operations of taxi association, including how tours are assigned, we understand the concerns regarding fairness. It's important for associations to operate transparently to maintain trust among members. If there are issues of preferential treatment, these should be addressed through the association's leadership or brought to the attention of the appropriate oversight authorities. However, we are taking matters like these into consideration and as we revamp the policy to ensure greater fairness and transparency in the industry. Question 16. Currently, aside from the road tax, the government does not collect additional fees from licensed taxis and bus operators. Does the minister plan to introduce a fee system similar to vending licenses for public transportation? At this time, the ministry is not actively pursuing the introduction of an annual fee system for licensed taxis and bus operators. While the idea is something that could be considered in the broader context to improving the public transportation regulation and oversight, it is not a priority at the moment. Our current focus remains on supporting the sector and addressing pressing issues such as fare adjustments and ensuring that operators are able to continue providing an essential service to the community. Any future consideration would be done carefully with full dialogue and engagement with stakeholders. The previous minister discussed placing a no loitering sign outside the harbor along with fines to deter illegal drivers from lingering in the area. Are you aware of these plans and will they be implemented? No, unfortunately, we're not currently aware of those plans. However, we are actively working on developing a comprehensive strategy to address the issues in collaboration with the Ministry of Justice. This plan will focus on enhancing public order and security in the area, especially in the area in front of the Port of St. Martin. Additionally, the Port of St. Martin has already taken steps to improve security and ensure a more organized and safer environment for both operators and visitors. We remain committed to tracking this issue effectively through coordinated efforts. And the final question, what is the status of the proposed increase in bus fare? The matter of the proposed bus fare increase is currently under active review within my ministry. We are carefully considering the comprehensive advice provided by the Social Economic Council, SER, following the earlier request from the former minister. SER's report urges caution, noting that while bus operators are indeed facing rising operating costs, including fuel, maintenance, and competition from unlicensed drivers, a unilateral fare increase could disproportionately impact lower income passengers. As such, we are taking a balanced approach to ensure that any decisions made takes into account both the sustainability of the public transportation sector and the affordability of the public. With that, Madam Chair Lady, I've come to the end of the questions posed by MP Lac Cruz and look forward to any additional questions he may ask, or any other member of Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Heiliger Martin. And again, in keeping with the procedures for a question hour, MP Lac Cruz now has the opportunity to ask any additional question or questions, but for a maximum of 2 minutes. MP Lac Cruz.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Thank you to the Minister for the answers provided thus far. But I think there were a couple questions that were not clear. For example, question number 1, how many bus and taxi licenses have been approved in 2025 and how many remain uncollected? The question was not new permits. The idea was that every driver, taxi and bus in January or February, when a new number plate or the stickers were to be collected, that they had to go through a new inspection. With the inspection, it would then be able to collect the sticker. And if these stickers are not collected, then the minister would actually know that these individuals do not even have a bus. So that 550 will go automatically, drastically down, because these are the persons that were actually holding permits only to be able to rent out to other individuals. So again, most of my questions were not just questions, they were global questions, but I had expected definitely that with the support of your staff, Minister, through you, Madam Chair Lady, that they would know exactly what was the meaning and follow up on it. I saw that that is not the case. It is somewhat confusing to me that the government gives a permit and then an association decides who can drive from a specific location. That makes absolutely no sense. That power should be and should only be in the hands of government, in my opinion, with regulations on how it's being executed. Then is the minister of the opinion that we have enough taxi dispatchers? Because those complaints would have actually been solved, 8 complaints thus far, if we had enough taxi dispatchers or if all of them were actually active. I know it's 2 minutes, so for now I'll stop there. Thank you, Madam Chairlady.
Thank you, MP Lac Cruz. Minister Heiliger Martin.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Madam Chairlady. Thank you, MP Lac Cruz, for your clarification on the question. Well, it's actually kind of a new question for me. Then if the MP, through you, Madam Chairlady, is referring to the confirmation that was done this year, confirmation of those that registered to receive the confirmation so that they can pay for their road tax, the total amount is 120 was for the buses and 366 for taxis. So of the 521, only 366 thus far has paid their road tax and received a letter of confirmation, and 120 buses received also their confirmation letter. And then regarding the, does the minister agree that government has no road, no. What was the last question? Or do we have sufficient? Well, in all honesty, no. I don't think we have sufficient, but that's also going to be through you, Madam Chairlady. I think we should have more, but that is also being taken up in the internal review to make a decision on if we need to expand, yes or no. But I personally, my personal opinion, I think we need more taxi dispatchers. Just my personal opinion as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Grisha Heiliger Martin of TIAT. At this time, is there any other member of Parliament who has a question for the minister regarding this very topic? And if so, you have the opportunity of maximally 1 minute to ask the question or questions. I don't see any, or do I? I do see a member of Parliament requesting the floor for such, and that is MP Roseberg. MP Roseberg, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Blessed afternoon to my colleagues and to the Minister and the support staff present here today. Based on the questions that my colleague MP Lac Cruz asked, and I understood that the internal review will take place, is there a time frame connected to that so that we know when we can expect answers back? That's the only question for now. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Roseberg. Minister Heiliger, you can immediately go into that. Yes, Minister Heiliger, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairlady. MP Roseberg, through you, Madam Chairlady, as mentioned before, we're busy doing a full review of the policy, and once it's in its draft, we want to also meet with certain stakeholders. So I mentioned that also in my answers, that I would like to also meet with all stakeholders, and once we received all their input and everyone is clear, I will try and have it ready. We're trying to see if we can have it done before Parliament goes to on break, recess. So once I have that final draft, that's one thing you're gonna get from me. Once everyone is in agreement with the policy, I'll come to Parliament and do a presentation and inform Parliament of the changes. So I'm hoping to do that hopefully mid to late June. If not, if I'm trying to make the deadline of July 1st. Yeah? Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Grisha Heiliger Martin. Is there any other member of Parliament who has a question on this topic? That does not appear to be the case. So I want to thank the Minister for being here with us for a greater part of the day, the meeting before this one, and now this particular question hour. I want to encourage members of Parliament to make use of the question hour possibility, especially for the lack of a better word, burning, no, let me use for actual topics. So if the need is there to get quick responses from government on a topic, I encourage you to use the format of the question hour. Like that, the minister can come prepared with the answers because the questions would have been sent beforehand. And if a question comes up in the meeting, you realize that you would have the opportunity to ask those questions. So with that, I want to thank the members of parliament. I want to thank the member of parliament on whose request this question hour was held. All other members of parliament here present, the minister and her support staff, our support staff. And with this, we have come to the end of this question hour, this public meeting of parliament, and I hereby close this meeting. Meeting closed.